who was able to secure their spot in the top 8 here. David Long was on the play. Looks like Urborg is where he will start.
Yeah, no discard spell, though. That's important to note. This deck does play 2 copies of Duress, 4 copies of Thoughtseize, and 1 Hymn to Turok as this early disruption. The way that it helps find the combo quickly, it has 4 copies of Crop Rotation and 3 Sylvan Scrying to find Dark Depths and such.
Wood will start on Island Preordain. We'll go back Long's way. Thespian stage, and just a pass, no spells just yet.
Yeah, it's possible that he just has the turn 4 slow combo and just kind of waiting on the Miracles deck to just do nothing in the first few turns. And then he's just going to make a 20/20 instant speed and go for the kill. Not a whole lot else to do. And, you know, if the Miracles deck does have like Force Will or something, you don't really want to play like a Crop Rotation into it if you already have that turn 4 combo lined up.
For Wood, it's another cantrip. It's a Ponder. It keeps them on top. He has a Flooded Strand this turn as his land, and he'll pass back.
Yeah, notably that Urborg on the battlefield, so Keaton doesn't actually even have to sacrifice that Flooded Strand if he doesn't want to.
I can just tap for black mana. Turn 3 play for David Long is a Sylvan Library.
That's a really good one for a couple of reasons. If David goes for make a 20/20, and Keaton Wood has to use Swords to Plowshares on it, that is equivalent to 5 free cards from a Sylvan Library. So Keaton Wood's going to need one of his Council's Judgments here to get that off the battlefield since he didn't have a counterspell for it. Let's see if he has the answer.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And Long did cast that off Bayou. That was land for turn. We go back Wood's way.
It's possible Long had an opener that was not very explosive, but you know, he might know the matchup and kept like a little bit of a slower hand, or a hand that would be unlocked once he found green mana. On turn 3 here, you see him cast that Sylvan Library, but it gets taken down by Council's Judgment.
Yeah, a couple fetch lands to get there. He'll fall to 18. A couple basic plains and an island do the trick. Long is just kind of set up. He has half of a combo. He has Thespian stage, but he needs to find the other half and also probably get some protection. Here is that, though. Sylvan Safekeeper is where he'll start on his turn. And there's Dark Depths.
Yeah, so he has the combo, so to speak. He has Thespian Stage, Dark Depths. He even has protection with Sylvan Safekeeper. So now Keaton Woods is going to be forced to answer the Sylvan Safekeeper as well as answer that 20/20. But luckily for Keaton, David can't activate it this turn. So he's not under a direct threat from dying next turn. So he has basically 2 full turns to find the answers.
The Urborg, he can this turn, can't he?
Oh, you're right. Urborg allows you to effectively generate an extra mana thanks to the Dark decks actually being able to tap for mana. That's not something that comes up too often. Yeah. You are correct.
Yeah, the deck plays 4 Urborgs, which is a legendary land. But yeah, this is exactly why they do it. And there is that activation. He kind of wanted to fade Terminus here to make sure he has Sylvan Safekeeper around, but he's just going to shove. He has the Safekeeper. Here comes the 20/20.
Yeah, and this Jerry Thompson 20/20 Merit Lodge token is threatening Keaton Wood in one swing. Keaton's going to need 2 Swords to Plowshares here to take care of it.
Well, there's one. Long says, you're targeting my 1/1 or my 20/20. Sacrifice a land to protect it.
Yeah,
Second Swords to Plowshares.
This is not going to go well for...
Sacrifice a land to
does
protect it.
Does he have a 3rd sword?
No.
He does not!
He was just checking to see if Long would sacrifice the other land, but Long's like, hey, I came this far.
Yeah, what a impressive showing from that Golgari Depths deck. Didn't really do much of anything. Cast a Sylvan Safekeeper and a Sylvan Library and won very easily.
Sylvan Tribal over here for David Long. Very quickly dispatching Keaton Wood with that 20/20 as players shuffle up for game number 2. On the Miracle side, Keaton Wood, he has a Monastery Mentor, some Back to Basics, a Counterbalance, an Oblivion Ring, a Celestial Purge, 2 Disenchant, 2 Flustered Storm, 2 Power Blast, Red Elemental Blast, and 2 Surgical Extraction. How much of this stuff do you want?
I mean, so you saw the main deck Sylvan Library. You may actually want to bring in some number of disenchants to be able to kill it, but it's pretty dangerous to do that because there are very, very few targets in this matchup. Back to Basics could be okay, but for the most part, they're kind of shoving all in on one particular turn, and they don't need to use their mana that much over the first few turns. Plus, they have Mox Diamond, so it's not going to be nearly as effective as you might think. Counterbalance, things like that, aren't super good against the deck because it can combo you through just playing lands. It doesn't actually have to cast any spells, which is pretty sweet. Last but not least, though, maybe Celestial Purge comes in because it can straight up exile the 20/20 Merit Lodge as well as knocking off Dark Confidant.
All right, and then for David Long, what do you think that he's going to be bringing in from his Golgari Depths deck?
All right, and if you want to take a look at these decks, let's make sure to check out that Cardboard Live extension on the overlay here. We have 2 copies of Pith and Needle from David Long. I don't think that those are going to come in. They're more first-topping decks that play things like Wasteland. 2 copies of Assassin's Trophy might come in as a catch-all to the Planeswalkers, as well as something like Back to Basics if it ends up being detrimental. Surgical Extraction 2 times. I don't think those are going to come in. Gaddock Teague seems like a great addition to this sideboard and one that I definitely think is going to come in. 2 Liliana the Last Hope can help David play this longer game, as well as apply a threat that the Golgari Depths deck, or sorry, the Miracles deck might have trouble interacting with in a positive way. And then 2 copies of Green Sun Zenith, which can find Sylvan Safekeeper. Love that addition to the sideboard, as well as an extra way to get Gaddock Teague. And then 3 Hymn to Torok and a Dryad Arbor. I like the Hymn to Torox. Not so much a fan of the Dryad Arbor, even though I do think you should bring in Green Sun Zenith.
We have an update from table number 3. Aiden Breyer did win his pair up against Jonathan Castagna. So this was a 33-pointer against a 36-pointer. That means they are both now at 36 points. Entirely possible both of those players are in the top 8.
Yeah, it's also entirely possible both players miss. Depending on how their tiebreakers shake out, if Aiden's tiebreakers are really good, that's great news for him. That win might not get him into the elimination rounds. However, Jonathan Castagna, 36 points, taking a loss. He's going to go down to 12-3. He was at the bottom of the X and 3s with, I believe, somewhere around a 64% tiebreaker percentage. If he lost there, that means he also got pared down. His tiebreakers could fall as low as 62% or so, depending on how the rest of his opponents won or lost in their last few rounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there will be a sweat there.
Oh, yeah,
definitely.
Sure. It's one of those things where sometimes you have the required record to draw into the elimination rounds, but sometimes there's an odd number, someone gets pared down, and unfortunately for Jonathan Castagna, it was him. He might still be in. We're just going to have to wait and see how everything shakes out.
And that is also based off that tiebreakers that you were talking about. You know, Austin Collins, his tiebreakers are 73%. You know, he certainly could have drawn in that position.
Absolutely. And this is the thing. Austin Collins, with those 3 buys, thanks to being the season points leader at the end of last year, his tiebreakers are outrageous. You see that a lot at Grand Prix, but here on the SCG Tour, a lot fewer players in these tournaments have buys. So that 3rd buy for Austin Collins and Caleb Scher for being the player of the year last year, those are just very powerful. When you get to the late stages of a tournament, those tiebreakers really start to skyrocket at the end of the tournament.
So game number 2 starting off here. Keaton Wood on the play, going to crack a Flooded Strand. Goes to 19. Thinking about what kind of land he wants to drum up here. It's going to be a basic island. The Golgari Depths deck is a little bit weird. You want to think about how much non-basics matter in a matchup like this. Generally, when you look at a deck list like this, they play Pithing Needle to name Wasteland and have like a Ghost Quarter.
Right.
Wastelands can crop up, and also it's possible Wood has access to some back-to-basics in this game.
All right, just a preordained here to saw for Keaton Wood. Pretty demoralizing end to the first game, I'm sure. Had 2 copies of Swords of Plowshares, but just not quite enough to get through that Sylvan Safekeeper. And David Long's deck really showcasing exactly what it can do.
Yeah, 1 top, 1 bottom off the preordained. Just a Verdant Catacombs for Long. Back to Wood. 2nd basic island. No action. He'll pass back.
Now David Long here just going to probably play this a bit slow. He knows what the Miracles deck is capable of, and he needs to make sure he can try to combo or play a bit of disruption before something like Jace the Mind Sculptor comes online. But in the meanwhile, he's probably going to try to apply a little pressure here or there with something like Sylvan Library or potentially Dark Confidant.
You see Long fetches that Catacombs for a basic forest down to 19. Urborg's the land for turn. Green Sun Zenith cast for 1.
Yeah, and since the Green Sun Zenith does shuffle in, he's kind of doing the shortcut where he's going to wait for it to see if it resolves. If it does resolve, he goes and gets Safekeeper. If it doesn't resolve, then he shuffles his deck and passes the turn. Finds Sylvan Safekeeper, which can protect his combo or Dark Confidant in a few turns. And Keaton Wood needs to find some removal in a hurry.
Yeah, Accumulated Knowledge number 1 was his cast there. Goes his turn. Casts a Ponder, keeps those.
Yeah, it looks like he found a Terminus on top with the Ponder. And looking to probably cast that on the following turn. Might even have a Brainstorm at the ready to do it at instant speed. We'll just have to wait and see.
Arid Mesa is the land for turn. Passes back Long's way. wants to try to get a combo set up. We saw him wisely play around Terminus in the previous game. Definitely something that's going to be on his mind.
Oh, absolutely. David here, just a really heads-up player. I'm sure he's played this matchup plenty of times. Knows what his roles are, knows how fast he needs to be. And if he has a crop rotation here, he can actually combo here at instant speed. Doesn't even attack with the Sylvan Safekeeper, understanding that a Snapcaster Mage coming down the block is one of the easiest ways for Keaton to actually get Sylvan Safekeeper off the battlefield.
Yeah, certainly. He'll play Thespian Stage as the land for turn and past. Wood will sacrifice that Arid Mesa, finds a basic Plains. Should go to 18 off of that.
Here's the Swords of Plowshares. Curious what David's going to do. My guess, just going to let it die. But depending on how important he believes it's going to be, he may choose to sacrifice one of those lands.
Yeah, not a lot of material here, just 3 lands there. Kind of depends on the context of the hand, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, he also could potentially just do something like cash a crop rotation in to go look for a Sagiri's Step, which could give him protection from, well, I'll just let it play out because there's a lot of stuff going on here.
So looks like Long is responding by using his Thespian Stage. He's going to sacrifice the Urborg to protect the Safekeeper.
Now, he chose to copy Forest with the Thespian Stage. That's important because Keaton Wood could slam it back to basics here. And since Thespian Stage is copying Forest, it is effectively a Forest, and it will untap even under back to basics.
Play, though, is Jace the Mind Sculptor off a 3rd basic island. He'll make Long pick up that Safekeeper. That one's not worth fighting over.
Yeah, you just let that happen. You try to play it again. If it gets Force Willed, you're actually just completely fine with that as well.
Let's see what Long can do from here. This deck is kind of just doing nothing until it's just winning the game.
Yeah, and it generally has disruptive elements. We just haven't seen a lot of them. The Golgari Depths deck actually plays quite a few cards like Thoughtseize and Duress, even Hymn to Torok after sideboard, that allow it to play this really disruptive game against the Miracles deck. And here, looks like we do have a Vampire Hexmage as well as an Urborg to cast it, but no Dark Depths just yet.
Sylvan Safekeeper also recast. The Hexmage resolves, and it's going to just remove the Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, a really strong way to kill Jace out of this Golgari Depths deck. It's normally combos with Dark Depths to make a 20/20, but here we see it just knocking off a Planeswalker. That's definitely a good additional usage.
Council's Judgment for Wood. No reason to respond to that one. That's just going to get the Safekeeper no matter what, so that one's exiled.
Yeah, it's a lot more like a Diabolic Edict than it is like a Swords of Plowshares. You choose as a resolution. It's not technically a target, and something like Sylvan Safekeeper giving Shroud means you can't target it.
We go back Long's way. So he has that Thespian Stage, and even though it's a Forest, it still has the stage ability. Missing the other half of the combo, though here's Bayou Crop Rotation. Is he going to shove?
I don't see why not.
There's Dark Depths.
I mean, you don't have to shove main phase. You don't want to get hit with a Terminus. You don't want to get hit with a Jace the Mind Sculptor. But you want to see if that corrupt rotation resolves, and it does. And now, at any point, David Long can just choose to try to make a 20/20 and see if Keaton Wood is able to deal with it. Now, thanks to the Urborg, he also technically has the ability to cast crop rotation as well, and he can use that to find a Sagiri Step to protect from a Source of Plowshares or Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah. Some pretty interesting lines from this deck. It's doing some very unique things. And go back Wood's way, see what he can do about it. Looking at tapping 3 mana for something here, but giving it a lot of thought. He knows that Long is representing that combo on the table. He's got to at least give Long some pause on that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Long, you're not really incentivized to do much. The Miracles deck's not applying any pressure. They didn't cast Planeswalker. They didn't play a Monster Mentor. But the longer the game goes, the higher the odds that the Miracles deck's actually able to find the answer. The trick is, Miracles has like 5 or 6 cards in hand, didn't cast anything, started to cast something, probably has a draw spell, maybe even already has the Source of Plowshares. So
here's a second Thespian Stage for Long. Just passes back. Wood will just draw a card and pass again. Long's going to use Thespian Stage to copy something, not the Dark Depths.
No, he's going to copy, I believe, Plains, or maybe Forest. He's just wanting to continue to protect his Thespian Stages from a potential back to basics.
Yep, really clever line there. Long is definitely not the kind of player that really ever misses stuff like that.
Right.
Extremely meticulous and deliberate.
And that's such a strange rules interaction, but it comes up pretty often against the likes of Wasteland.
Here is a brainstorm for Wood on his turn. Long's thinking about responding to this, but he's not going to. I think any window you give Long to have priority, he's going to think about it at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Wood looking at the 2 he wants to put back here. Kind of just wants to find some mix of stuff to protect against a combo.
Right.
Actually winning the game, that would be desirable. For the most part, he has to not lose for a while.
Now he's going to see if the coast is clear. He's going to cast a surgical extraction here, and I believe he's targeting accumulated knowledge, which is a pretty heads-up play because if Keaton Wood has accumulated knowledge in hand and a Terminus on top, this might actually just end up killing him, especially if David Long has access to that crop rotation into Sajiri step technology.
Yeah, so this is a really nice spell here. See exactly how this plays out. Wood thinking about responding. And it's just showing the hand, like that's not what you want to do in this battlefield position. Long just has the combo set up. Thespian Stage and Dark Depths are on the battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, if you just don't have the answer, right? Like, he's just like, okay, well, you're dead, right? Let's just make it 2020. Snapcaster Mage here going to target. Well, I'm curious what he's going to target. I thought maybe he would target Accumulate Knowledge and cast him, but then he's just going to die. So,
right, yeah.
Probably not going to do that.
The accumulated knowledge, sure, that can fizzle the surgical extraction. We might just do something like brainstorm in response.
This is interesting. I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm sure it's all going to shake out, and we're going to understand exactly what's happening here in just a moment.
Long is responding with an abrupt decay on the Snapcaster Mage.
Can't imagine this is anything worth fighting over or crying home about. Now, the surgical extraction might have actually targeted a Snapcaster Mage, maybe? I don't think so. I don't think there's a Snapcaster Mage in the graveyard, but
that would make it tough. Source of Plowshares was the target.
Ah, that makes more sense.
Hand is Counterbalance, Monastery Mentor, Mission Briefing, Disenchant, and Accumulated Knowledge.
Man, that sure looks a lot like Keaton Wood is dead.
That's what it looks like to me.
Holy moly.
Long's going to go ahead and go through the deck anyway. Hey, how'd you sideboard?
Yeah, I mean, this could matter. I mean, this is during the end step, right? So there's no land drop to be played. Disenchant doesn't do anything. Mission Briefing can't be cast. Now, Snapcaster targeted something like Brainstorm probably, but that effect is going to go away at the end of turn, and Miracle can't be triggered here during the end step because this is Keaton Wood's end step, and he's already drawn a card. So let's make a 20-20 here, and let's close the game, huh?
Was the Snapcast, so he's copying some land here. Yeah, it is the 2020, so that's coming online. Because the Swords of Plowshares have already been exiled. No way that can happen. So what is Wood doing? These cards in hand don't do anything, right?
Well, you say what is Wood doing, but this is literally playing for top 8. What else? What can he do except stare down the barrel of this 2020 Merilage token, and that's going to be all she wrote.
One last accumulated knowledge on the way out the door, but David Long takes it down.
That was rough. That was rough to watch.